Good evening. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, and you're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This is your weather podcaster, Simcha Lefton. Weather enthusiast, Simcha Lefton, with the latest weather going on here in the United States and even places across the world this evening. We have some very impressive stuff occurring across. First of all, you go over to the Persian Gulf. You'll see dew points and wet bulb temperatures, which are just something totally phenomenal. Dew points going up into the upper 80s right along the Persian Gulf. Dew point of 88 and 89 degrees. Wet bulb temperatures 90 degrees this week is expected for places along the Persian Gulf at times. That means the wet bulb globe temperature is likely going to go into the lower or even close to the mid-90s, which is getting in the upper end of what a human could bear. That's what's going to be happening on the Persian Gulf. When you head just past the mountain range on the eastern portions of the Persian Gulf, dew points drop considerably, but all of that energy that's released from the dew point drop then gets put into the temperature, and the temperatures just soar, with temperatures going up into the 100 and teens. We even have places in Iran, the desert over there, the Great Salt Desert, where surface temperatures are forecasted to go into the 120s. Something which is important to acknowledge is that the truth of the matter is there's places in the Great Salt Desert where temperatures are actually in the 130s. Surface temperatures are even hotter than that, much higher than that, but the air temperature about 6 feet above the ground is in the 130s. The only thing is that we don't have any thermometers in that area, but the satellite imagery shows satellite temperatures indicate that we have that in Iran. It even takes place just about every summer, but because there's no official thermometer there, the official record high temperature for the world remains in Death Valley, California at 134 degrees. That's just due to the lack of weather stations. But one place in Iran that doesn't have an official weather station, but it does have a forecast that frequently forecasts highs in the 130s, is Shuster, Iran. We've spoken about the city last year, and we've spoken about the city for the past couple of years. That's a city where you look at AccuWeather, you'll see the forecast highs 120s and 130s. But when you go back to see what the actual high was, you'll see the temperature only in the 110s. That's not because it didn't hit 130. That's because the closest official weather station is 50 miles away from that city. That's the closest airport. And the 50 miles away, the temperatures are only 120 degrees. Let's go back and talk about the United States. We have a very impressive heat dome, which is taking place here in the Midwest, also the East Coast, 596 decimeters. This heat dome is only going to strengthen over the next several days and over the next upcoming 2 weeks. In fact, by next week, we're looking at dew points by this weekend, by July 26th onward. We're looking at the heat dome of 599 decimeters, and it retrogrades westward into the Nebraska area for portions of next week. That's going to push our afternoon highs next week into the 100s, all the way up into Nebraska, St. Louis, Missouri, forecasting highs in the low hundreds. One of the most impressive things on the weather map this evening is the very high dew points which are occurring not just on the Persian Gulf, but here in the United States. When you go down into the Gulf of Mexico, so you start off by the Louisiana area, looking at the European computer model, you'll see a dew point of 79 degrees. Dew points take a little bit of a dip as you move further away from the Gulf, but the dew points do rise again as you go over the Midwest Corn Belt, the state of Illinois, going over the cornfields. You'll see the dew points start to rise again, going into the upper 70s. Dew point, a widespread mid-70 dew point is currently reported across Illinois and Missouri right now. And people living in the Chicago area could certainly tell you that it feels literally like a swamp, really, and all this air, it's totally amazing that this air is originating from the Gulf of Mexico, well over 1,000 miles to our south. And if the air was not originating from the Gulf of Mexico, it would not feel like a swamp. So that's where the air needs to come, and the Corn Belt supports it and even brings it to a new level. That's what happens a lot of the times. this particular setup, the Corn Belt brings it to the same level that it was when it started off. Going into Corpus Christi, Texas, that's another place we have super high dew points. Let's go back to United Arab Emirates again. That's right along the Persian Gulf to the city Dubai. You have temperatures in that city just continuously 94 degrees every single day, every hour, every night for the next week. We have one day high temperature this week going up to 98 degrees, but we have plenty of, I believe it was Dubai, we have temperatures in the mid-90s or somewhere around there. Temperatures just in the mid-90s. Dubai was 93. Okay, and we have overnight lows also very high. One of the reasons for that is because of the super high dew points. Just to give you an idea of how hot it is over there, the temperature of 95 with a dew point of 87 is one of the setups for this week, even 88. Well, a dew point of 80 makes the temperature feel 20 degrees warmer than it actually is. A dew point of 87 would make the temperature feel probably 34 degrees warmer than what it actually is. So we have heat index. The heat index is approaching 130, maybe even a little bit higher. That's really the upper end of what's ever been experienced by humanity. When you go back to the heat wave of 1995 here in the Midwest, we had an episode where the dew points hit 90 degrees in Wisconsin, and we did have heat indices up in the low 130s. It's a true rarity here in the U.S. to experience something like that. But the Persian Gulf is getting hit very hard with very high dew points. But the biggest chiddush out of any of this, nothing could beat the following. What's going on by the Caspian Sea in Russia. The Caspian Sea is super mysterious to those people that are not around there, and maybe even to those people who are around there. Because one would think a place that's so far north, it's far away from the tropics, very far from the tropics, up 45 degrees north latitude, even higher than that for some areas. It's just mind-boggling how high the ocean water temperatures get, almost equivalent to the Gulf of Mexico. We have ocean water temperatures in that area which are in the mid-80s, 85 degrees, possibly even higher than that, and the dew points reflect that. Really high dew points, really hot weather. So that's one part of the world that's got to be a part of the world where you have the same type of chaos. One has to look into this. The chaos that we experience here in the United States, the tornado chaos, all of that, Tornado Alley, there's very few places in the world where you could ever have such a potential, where you have such a dry line, humidity, desert air clashing with tropical air, which produces Tornado Alley, and then Arctic air coming out of the north. But one has to wonder whether near the Caspian Sea, whether they experience stuff like that, because why not? You have super humid air, you have super dry air, you have all of that stuff occurring over there. We also have some portions of Australia that could sometimes get hit with similar weather. This is just like the things that we spoke about in the past however many minutes are things that are just impossible not to notice when you look at a weather map. If you look at a weather map more carefully, you'll find layers and layers of depth of just shocking stuff that goes on. We are in the hottest part of the year right now, well into July. The ocean water temperatures are just totally sizzling, especially the Caspian Sea, as we pointed out. Another thing to mention, though, we have intense warmth occurring in the Arctic again. This is by northern Canada and also portions of Alaska. We don't have any 90-degree heat right now. We have temperatures, though, which are forecasted to go into the 80s in many locations, but a big cool down is forecasted for much of that area for next week. But until then, we have days, good swimming weather up there, but without air conditioning, it could certainly get hot. You go on to the West Coast, we have definitely areas of intense heat going all the way down from Arizona all the way up the into Washington State, by the mountain range, Oregon and Washington, the Cascades. The eastern side of the Cascades gets really hot this time of the year due to the downslope winds. the air dries out and the temperatures intense, they really go way up. We also have compressional warming that occurs as well when that happens. One thing to keep an eye on would be for hurricane development, but something that's very interesting is that, one would think, anyone who thinks about it should wonder, why are there no hurricanes? Why are there very few hurricanes in the month of July and August? Or at least in July. The warmer the ocean water temperatures are, the more likelihood you are to get a hurricane, and any hurricane that does develop, the more intense it's going to be. But here's the thing. There's something called the plume of Sahara dust that gets blown into the upper atmosphere for the summer months. That prevents hurricane development. It interferes greatly with any type of hurricane development. That's a chesed from Hashem. That's bechaste Hashem. Because if there were to be hurricanes this time of the year, it would just be very intense. The ocean water temperatures do tend to go up in August. The dust calms down, and we get hurricane season comes towards the very end of the summer. And so for those people who love hot weather, this summer is the summer for almost everyone here in the United States. In fact, we have heat advisories, which are in effect all the way up into the northern states here in the Midwest. And we have a large area of excessive heat warnings, which covers much of the Midwest as well, the southern portions of the Midwest going into the south central states. So this dome of heat centers itself over the mid-Atlantic area later this week. Super hot weather expected there. And we're going to sign off over here. But those people who love hot weather, this is the summer for you. Enjoy it. B'chaste Hashem. Stay healthy. Stay well hydrated. And, sweat's always healthy. There's always a good silver lining. Just stay safe. And magnificent stuff. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody a wonderful night and have a wonderful week. I just wanted to quickly go over the songs that we were listening to in the background. So the first song was called Journey Through the Desert. That's sung by Trace Way. We had let's see, the next song that we had was we had I believe we had Skyway. I'm not sure about that. Blue Dot Sessions. We had Borrow, Blue Dot Sessions. We had Molly Molly, Blue Dot Sessions. We had Glass Beads, Blue Dot Sessions. And we had the current song, I have it listed just as LITE 20 saturation 20. I'm not quite sure what it's trying to say, but those are the songs that we have, and we will see if we have a short little song. But yeah, Journey Through the Desert was the first song, and we'll just end off with that for right now.